Okay, good afternoon and welcome everybody to another session of Minds and Money TV. My name is Jonathan Leader. I'm the head of investor research over here at Beacon Events. It's my absolute pleasure to be hosting Melissa Mackie, who is the investor relations manager at Denarius Metals. They are a Canadian project trading on the CBO under DMET and the OTC under DNRSF. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you for having me.
Now, before we really dive into Denarius and all of the exciting news that you have to share, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you ended up in this fascinating and endlessly fast-moving space of junior mining.
Yeah, so I originally started off in oil and gas about 10 years ago with our chairman's group of companies and made my way over to the mining sector about 4 years ago now. So some similarities with the same fantastic team that I've known for the last 10 years.
Right, so a fairly smooth transition then. Let's jump straight into it, Len. So talk to me about Denarius Metals. So what's the story? How did the project come about? Fundamentally, what is it aiming to achieve? Just in case any of our audience are less familiar with the company.
Yeah, so we're a fairly new company. We formed in 2021, and we're an emerging metals producer focused on in-demand, high-grade polymetallic projects in Spain and Colombia. We're working with projects that are located in jurisdictions with a rich history, exploration upside, and a social license to operate. We have 4 projects in total. 3 of them are in Spain, and 1 of them is in Colombia, with 2 of them coming into production within the next 12 months. Our Zancudo project, it's a high-grade gold-silver project located in the Cauca Belt of Colombia, and it'll begin producing a high-grade gold-silver concentrate later this year. And then in the next 12 months, we expect to begin producing from our Agua Blanca project in Extremadura, Spain. We acquired a 50% interest in this project in late last year, and it's the old Rio Narcia assets that was mined by Lundin up until 2015. It's the only nickel copper mine in Spain, and it's one of few in Europe. So we're mining in-demand critical metals in prolific and supportive jurisdictions, and we have a clear path to near-term production with a team that knows how to deliver.
Right. No, that's fantastic. Listen, we'll dive into the individual projects, I'm sure, as we get a little bit further on into the interview. As part of my role, I have the privilege of talking to a great many sort of both institutional and private investors and trying to understand what their appetite is in the space. And one of the first things they always tell me is that the first thing they will look at in a project is a senior management team, their background, any sort of previous achievements they might have. Essentially, do you have a track record of success? Tell me a bit about the team who are behind Denarius. I know you spoke about them, obviously, they've previously been in oil and gas. What does that team look like? What's their experience?
Yeah, we have a very seasoned team led by Serafino Iacono. He's our chairman and CEO, and he has a significant amount of mine building experience. Our most recent success was in Colombia as Gran Colombia Gold, with the transformation of the largest underground gold producer, the Segovia operations, and identifying the expansion of the Ramado project with the discovery of the underground zone. Our team has had great success working with established projects with mining infrastructure, and they're invested in the success of the company.
Great. No, and it's very, very important to make sure you've got those people in place because, you know, as we all know, not all senior management teams, unfortunately, are made equally. And I think it gives investors a great deal of peace of mind when they're investing in a project to know there's decent experience behind it. Maybe a little bit, let's talk about the current capital structure, the key shareholders you've got. What has capital raising efforts looked like so far?
Yeah, we recently upgraded our listing, as you mentioned, to the CBOE Canada, and we trade under the symbol DMET. We also trade in the US on the OTCQX under the symbol DNRSF. We have 63 million shares outstanding, of which 24% are held by management and the board, Serafino being the largest individual shareholder at 10%. Other large shareholders include Aris Mining at 16% and Ruffer LLP out of London at around 10%. We're currently trading between 60 to 70 cents with a market cap of around $40 million. In the fall of last year, we closed a $20.6 million 5-year convertible debenture, which is also listed on the CBOE Canada under the symbol DMET.DB. And they're an interesting derivative in the sense that not only are they convertible into stock at 45 cents anytime, they bear interest at 12% per year, paid monthly, and starting in early 2025, they'll pay a quarterly gold premium when spot prices are above $1,800 per ounce. Last week, we announced an offtake agreement and a 3% NSR royalty on our Zancudo project, giving us additional liquidity as we complete construction at the project. And we're currently evaluating our financing options at Agua Blanca, including offtake agreements and prepayment financings.
Well, that is, and well, thank you very much for the update. Certainly sounds exciting. That is quite a nice segue onto our next question, which is the Zancudo project specifically. Talk to us about the history of that property. What was it that attracted you to it? What's the story there to date? What's going on in Zancudo?
Yeah, so it's a project that we're really familiar with since our Grand Colombia days, going back to 2010, with Denarius acquiring the project in 2021. From 2017 till 2022, IAMGOLD was drilling the project as part of an earn-in agreement. However, their plans changed when they chose to focus on their Côté project in Ontario. And in 2022, we were back in full control of Zancudo. Knowing the project as we do and our operating experience in Colombia, we're able to move quickly to get it on its path to production. As I mentioned, it's a high-grade gold-silver project that contains the historical Independencia mine that we're bringing back into operation. The development of the historical mine means that a lot of the upfront costs to open the nearly 1 kilometer ramp into the mineralization is already there, giving us a huge head start as our local contract miners access the mine to restart operations. In 2023, we began construction activities and we completed a PEA with a 10-year mine life, over which we expect to generate net revenue of approximately $1 billion from the sale of 576,000 payable ounces of gold and 8.8 million payable ounces of silver at an average all-in sustaining cost of $1,059 per ounce of gold. We've received the mining permits that allow us to start mining activities once the environmental impact study is approved, and we expect that in the second quarter of this year. The Zancudo technical report also includes an inferred mineral resource estimate comprising of 4.1 million tons, grading 6.5 grams per ton gold and 107 grams per ton silver, totaling 860,000 ounces of gold and 14.1 million ounces of silver. We're also commencing a 10,000 meter drilling program on this month to upgrade inferred resources to the indicated category and to support future mine development. And we have a very entrepreneurial mine building style. So we're starting out smaller and then we're using the capital we're creating to grow. Getting started is the most important part for us, and we're excited to begin production on this project this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a fairly familiar story of, I suppose maybe it's quite understandable to a degree, of mining companies. They find a great deposit on a great property, everything's in line, and they maybe just get a little bit too ahead of themselves. They start big and all of a sudden they're overstretched for capital. The fundraising needs become intensified and, everything starts to derail from there. So it certainly sounds like a sensible approach. Speaking of the gold market, you referenced it there. We're seeing historically high performance in terms of gold commodity prices. What impact would you say has that had on either just the share price specifically or your general conversations with investors? Like, what impact are these really strong commodity prices having on your ability to raise capital?
Yeah, I think like many mining companies, we've yet to see the increased gold prices reflected in our share price to date. However, we really believe it's only a matter of time before the market catches on. Our PEA for Zancudo was completed at an $1,800 gold price with an extremely low capex and a contract mining model. And our converts, as I mentioned, they're paying a gold premium starting in early 2025 above $1,800 per ounce gold, making them an extremely attractive investment for our holders.
Yeah, I was going to, and you've timed this exceptionally well with the mines coming into production, so soon. Hopefully you'll be able to ride this wave a little bit further, and hopefully, those prices stay where they are, and all the sort of geopolitical uncertainties in the world right now, there's no reason really to believe that the prices are going to plummet particularly. So let's hope that all continues, specifically in Colombia. And I think this is an issue really for any mining companies out there who are, obviously Latin America is no stranger to extractive industry or to mining. Obviously, Chile, Peru, Bolivia, so on and so forth, Colombia as well, all have a rich history in the industry. But there is a perception that maybe permitting can be a little bit tricky, that dealing with particularly indigenous communities can be a little bit of a sticking point. What's your approach been to all of that? It sounds like it's all gone relatively smoothly for you. So I'm wondering, how did you approach that ESG part of the question?
Yeah, so our Colombia project is located in a very historic mining district with operations dating back to 1746. The mines remain dormant since 1945, and the community is anticipating the social and local economic benefits of its reopening. So very supportive in that sense. Our ESG team has extensive experience in Colombia, back to our Gran Colombia days, and we have several initiatives focused on health, education, employment, and entrepreneurship, as well as developments in local infrastructure. And I highly encourage viewers to watch our documentary Volver. It's located on our website and our YouTube channel. It contains beautiful footage of the community and the history of the mine, and it's narrated by residents, community leaders, and members of our local team exploring the anticipated revitalization and positive impact of mining coming back to the community.
Excellent. And just to be clear for everybody watching, so that YouTube channel is just Denarius Metals on YouTube.
Yes.
If they're going to search for that, perfect.
Yep.
So please do make sure you check that out. And I think it's a really good example of engaging with those communities at the very, very early stages of the project, to not wait until the mine reaches production or even development. You know, from the very beginning, having those conversations and making sure that to some degree, and to a significant degree, that the economic benefits of that mining project expands beyond the mining company shareholders and senior management team. You know, making sure that the communities who are impacted by these sites get proper benefit from it, I think, is a really excellent example of that. Now, moving on to Agua Blanca then, because here we're going to move into Spain. Spain, obviously, in case any amateur geographers are watching, is indeed in Europe. Europe having, I suppose, if South America has a reputation of being a little bit sticky on the permitting and local community sides, and Europe, I would say, is even more so. What's that experience been like? It's simply operating within the EU, within Spain, how the local authorities all reacted to it? What's that process look like for you?
Yeah, so the permitting process in Spain, because we're focused on polymetallic and critical minerals, permitting is a more positive step for us to go through, as the EU is looking to source these materials domestically. So with Agua Blanca, as it's the only nickel copper mine in Spain and one of few in Europe, it's getting a lot more attention for European-based usage of that nickel down the road. And at Agua Blanca, the mining license is already in place, as well as the environmental license. So the only thing that we need to get started is the water concession, and we expect to have that in the next couple of months. This will allow us to dewater the open pit and access the underground mine, which had already been developed down several levels by Lundin back in 2015. And mining underground is a plus, as it's more readily accepted by communities and environmental authorities, as it's less disruptive to the landscape. And we're also working with advisors who are identifying grant and IRA opportunities. And since we've announced that we're restarting the Agua Blanca mine, we've had a lot of inbound interest from smelters, refiners, and car manufacturers.
Okay, I mean, on that particularly, I mean, I will push you slightly on the car manufacturing piece, because that's a fascinating part of this conversation, I think, of the convergence of the critical mineral production world with end users far further on down the supply chain than perhaps would historically have been true in terms of that direct engagement. But not to give any of your would-be competitors too many tips, you know, the timing of all of this seems to have been really well thought out. You know, we're at a geopolitical moment where players such as the EU or the United States have all recognised the need to friendshore or onshore these operations in ways that, you know, simply weren't true even 5 years ago. And being able to take advantage of that sort of geopolitical swing, I think, is very astute on your part. Not to go too far into detail, particularly if any of obviously the conversations, the detailed conversations specifically, of course, I imagine are private between you and those players. But what has that engagement with the auto manufacturing world look like? So what kind of questions are they interested in? What kind of, I'm very interested in how these two worlds are colliding. So there's any insight you could offer us on that, I think would be great for the listeners.
Absolutely. So they've noticed the timeline that we have coming into production. A lot of them are familiar with this asset being the only nickel mine or nickel copper mine in Spain. And like I said, one of few in Europe. There is a lot of attention on it for that reason. So a lot of European-based car manufacturers are looking to get these materials sourced domestically to fit into their overall ESG strategy. Because, you know, sourcing materials from countries that might not have the proper governance or health and safety or labor rights in place, it's all part of their overall messaging, right? So it is very important that they're looking to find these materials domestically, and there's been a lot of attention on us for that reason.
Yeah, I think it makes all of the sense in the world for them. I've often thought, you know, the ESG case for electric vehicles seems fairly clear. Obviously, the environmental case in terms of emissions over the lifetime of the piece of equipment is it's unquestionable. But there is a certain thing of, you're going to mine the nickel or the lithium maybe in Western Australia, you ship it maybe somewhere in the Far East. That country may not, exactly like you said, may not have the labour and sort of environmental conditions that we would hope we would have maybe in Europe or the United States or Canada, so on and so forth. For that product to be shipped around the world probably 2 or 3 times, so eventually end up in a British person's Tesla in their driveway, all of a sudden it starts to get a little bit more cloudy. That's sort of the ESG case for those vehicles. So the vertical integration piece and shortening the distance that all of that material has to travel physically, I think is brilliant. Just to wrap up then, because that's I think both projects have got a really strong story to tell. I think the timing of both projects in particular has been really, really well executed on your part. So congratulations on that, and best of luck, obviously, for everything for the future. Is there any other news that our listeners should be aware of or viewers should be aware of? Anything exciting coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, so we've started construction at Zancudo. It's well underway. Our concentrate plant equipment has started shipping from China, and it'll be at the project site for installation over the summer, with operations starting in the 4th quarter of this year. We've recently announced results for a PFS on Agua Blanca, and we expect to release PEA results for Limero in mid-2024. And I would encourage listeners to subscribe to our news via our website and follow us on social media. We're very active on social media. And with several upcoming catalysts and a steady news flow, 2024 and 25 are shaping up to be exciting years for Denarius as we begin production in both Colombia and Spain.
Perfect. Well, listen, Melissa, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've been Jonathon Leader from Beacon Events and Mines and Money. Melissa, obviously from Denarius Metals. Thank you so much for having us, and we will see you all next time.
Thanks so much.